you now!
Good day, everyone. So, what we have today might be very special for some of our viewers, as it was a golden highlight for lots of childhood. We are talking about a cartoon that rose to fame too soon and died too soon as well. It is the Icarus effect, I guess, but it was undeniably one of a kind during its time. Yes, today we are going to dive into the details regarding what actually happened to Jonny Quest and where it is these days.
Look out!
It would be Saturday mornings, eyes barely open, but our minds stuck in one place only, while sitting in front of the TV, Jonny Quest. Children are simple like that after all. Think about it, it used to be everywhere. Reruns on ABC, Cartoon Network, Boomerang, or recorded on VHS tapes. It shaped the impact of cartoons for quite some decades, being a core part of many childhoods. It felt like a never-ending background show, but I guess all good things come to an end, although this one seemed too sudden and abrupt. No more opening theme sounds of horns and their jetpacks, no more Race Bannon punching some dudes, no more witnessing Johnny and Hadji fighting off some sci-fi danger. It all just vanished one day. It disappeared in a way that finding it anywhere online became nearly impossible, which is baffling to see, as Jonny Quest wasn't just another usual cartoon of that time. It was Hanna-Barbera's first real attempt at a serious action-adventure animated cartoon that wasn't merely slapstick comedy or same old, repeated animations to cut down costs. They tried to hit the nail of making it almost similar to a live-action pulp serial, and it did give competition to such action shows for some time. But somehow, 60 years later, the show has been pushed far away from everyday pop culture conversation. It is hard to stream legally, it is barely merchandised, and the promised revivals never fully materialised. There was this one modern reboot, The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest in the 1990s, but it left almost no impression on the young viewers of today. So, what really happened? The original Jonny Quest premiered on ABC in September 1964, created by comic artist Doug Wildey, and ran for 26 episodes. Initially shown in primetime during Friday evening family time, the original 26 episodes later found a much longer afterlife in Saturday morning reruns across different networks. Wildey was asked by Joe Barber himself to produce something inspired by the popular vintage radio show called Jack Armstrong, but suitable for modern times. The purpose of doing so was having a young teen protagonist present in fast-paced adventures. However, due to rights-related issues, they stuck with such inspired designs for the closing credits only. I worked on that thing for, I guess, 3 months. The hovercraft with the natives throwing spears was done for that presentation, and when there were difficulties with Hanna-Barbera getting the rights to Jack Armstrong, I guess they wanted too much money or something. We ended up using that animation in the Jonny Quest closing credits as well as some other bits. Doug Wildey, 1986. Apart from this, it was also inspired by James Bond. The storyline was simple yet engaging. Jonny Quest is an 11-year-old travelling the world with his scientist father, Dr. Benton Quest, alongside bodyguard Race Bannon, and their adopted friend Hadji, not to forget their dog, Bandit as well. The team would fight off mad scientists and monsters, infiltrate secret bases, and come face to face with robots and smugglers as well, making it something straight out of science fiction horror. Look at all this all for a cartoon. The reason the show stood out was due to its unique art style and presentation. It was way ahead of its time, to the point that the costs for such detailed animation were going beyond what could be paid by ABC. The character designs were distinct and more realistic, and so were the sound effects, such as the effects of real guns and explosions. They had to go full cinematic to make this show work as prime time. As Wildey had once said in an interview in 1986, "The philosophy I had behind Jonny Quest was I wanted characters and scenes that people would remember. I tried to put it in the things that I liked as a kid." Doug Wildey, 1986. But all of these came with a price. Like mentioned earlier, the production costs per episode were becoming so much that ABC could not keep up. Each episode cost approximately $67,000 to produce. The average Saturday morning cartoons cost around $20,000 to $25,000 per episode. Since ABC couldn't bear such costs, it ultimately had to stop airing, and Jonny Quest stopped at just 26 episodes. Despite this, it did not make the show a failure. Instead, it left a huge cultural footprint which turned out to be a cult classic. With reruns happening throughout the late 1960s and up until the 80s on Saturday mornings on different channels, it stayed alive for decades. Most Gen X and Millennials did not even realise that the episodes they were watching were just reruns of the same 26 ones, which made it feel like it was some long-standing franchise. But even after all this, the economics of 1964 TV could not support cinematic-style action animation of that scale week after week. This show was proof of how something could exist even before the industry was ready to sustain it. While the reruns were happening in the background, during the 1980s, Hanna-Barbera tried to revive the series once more with New Adventures of Jonny Quest in 1986. this was not a full remake of the original run. It was a 13-episode syndicated continuation that brought Jonny, Hadji, Bandit, Dr. Quest, and Race Bannon back for new adventures, while also adding Jesse Bradshaw and the Stone Man ally Hard Rock. Then came in the telefilms, such as Jonny's Golden Quest of 1993 and Jonny Quest vs. the Cyber Insects in 1995. These tried to keep the series fresh by adding more sci-fi related elements, stories, and other engaging aspects, yet it failed to achieve the level of cultural impact that the original had, and due to all these things happening at once, a sort of an identity crisis developed here. Was Jonny Quest supposed to be a serious, pulp adventure thriller for kids and adults alike, or was it supposed to be something more generic, grounded, and kid-friendly? Because what the original cartoon showed, the menace of the real world, the dangers faced by the characters, the unpredictability, all of it seemed very dialed down and diluted in the 80s continuation. The plot became more conventional, less violent, and children-friendly than it was originally intended. Now that we have covered the new adventures of Jonny Quest, let's look at the 1990s modern reboot as well, The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. Now this is the one that most people remember from their childhood. It had episodes airing in all the three major Turner Broadcasting System channels, Cartoon Network, TNT, and TBS. Here, the team was more grown up now. Jonny was a teenager, Hadji had more agency, and Race Bannon's daughter, Jessie Bannon, was added to the core Quest family dynamic. This reboot also highlighted a lot of high-tech and virtual reality aspects, with use of early CGI. However, there seemed to be problems with the production of this reboot, which was evident in its style. When broadcasted, it featured two different versions, where in the first half, the team is given a more futuristic look, and the episodes leaned more into dark and mysterious storytelling, and more of grounded world travel as well. On the other hand, the second half went more conventional, with more updated designs. There was a clear internal struggle at the studio about who the actual target audience of the cartoon was. Nostalgic adults from the original series, or the 90s children used to fast-paced, toy-driven cartoons. In retrospect, it all looks chaotic. To add more to the chaos, we should definitely talk about the whole Tsunami drama. The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest was part of its early lineup for almost 2 years, from March 1997 to September 1999. The original broadcast run had already happened from 1996 to 1997, but reruns and scattered schedule appearances kept the show around later. Among Tsunami fans, the series became infamous for some unusually cheeky promos. For example, when Beast Wars replaced Jonny Quest for a week, they created a promo where the character Rat Trap appears to shoot Jonny, so he falls to his death. Also, when Jonny Quest was scheduled to leave Tsunami in September 1999, the producers made a break-up farewell promo, quite literally. Damn, it was easy for fans to read those promos as beef. Moving on, if we talk about the reviews, even they seem to be underperforming. The impact of the confusion brought about by who its target population would be is seen heavily on the ratings. It failed to pull the kind of ratings Cartoon Network wanted, and to top that, its merchandise also underperformed. All of this led to its cancellation after a total of 52 episodes, which is obviously more than the first one, but still not enough to be called a successful comeback or something, especially when the production and everything was so messy, and due to this was the last time this show received any fully funded mass market support. But hold your horses, this does not mean that the show stopped. Every attempt henceforth just keeps looking like a failing moment for this show. Because now comes into the picture the live-action movie, or more like the still-awaited live-action movie. Because for real, where is it? The audience has gotten bored out of its mind waiting for this so-called live-action, which, mind you, has been in talks since the 1990s. Isn't this more like a development hell at this point? Over the years of discussion in Hollywood, we have come across certain names attached to or reported around the live-action project, such as Richard Donner, Peter Segal, Robert Rodriguez, and even Chris McKay, just for nothing to really happen. At times, Warner Brothers, which currently controls Hanna-Barbera's major properties, has even announced or developed the movie as in development, only for nothing concrete to materialise. But honestly, looking at how the modern day audience views the show, such kind of contemplation from the producers and directors is kind of understandable. Okay, let's break it down a little. Yes, Jonny Quest has a good reputable name, with having some cultural impact too, making it a fond thing to remember for the older audiences. But is it actually mainstream enough to make a proper relevant comeback? Because if it is not, then pouring money into such a project would once again end up in losses, the probability of which is highly likely because Venture Bros, no one can forget it. If today's generation even knows Jonny Quest, it is mostly through its parody series Venture Bros. So this is another big hurdle to tackle before thinking about diving into a live action movie. As said by a particular newspaper critic, if filmmakers Woody Allen and Sam Peckinpah had collaborated on Jonny Quest, it would have come out a lot like this. Jackson Public, 2007. And eventually, this parody turned out to be more beloved by many modern adult animation fans than Jonny Quest itself. Venture Bros basically became the more visible, self-aware descendant of the Jonny Quest formula, so now making any modifications or additional reboots seems like a hard task to achieve. Now I think it is high time that we come to another difficult issue to be addressed: the lack of cultural nuance in Jonny Quest. Modern viewers often criticise the original series for dated racial and cultural stereotypes. I mean, look at Haji. Although an audience favourite, he is often discussed as a stereotypical mystic foreign sidekick of Jonny. For instance, many episodes associate him with occult knowledge, supernatural abilities, snake charming, and a weird blend of different parts of Asia. In addition to this, many non-Western cultures are portrayed wrongly. Reddit is seen swarming with comments like racist, sexist, toxic masculinity, and other such labels. So looking at all this, it is hard for such a cartoon to make a comeback. But of course, these are things that can be corrected in the current times, in the case that we do end up having some movie or reboot of some sorts. Real efforts would need to be put in to appropriately revamp this cartoon, with changes to Haji's autonomy and agency, the colonial adventure framing, and other such complex but relevant aspects. While all of this is happening, the show has quietly started disappearing from the public view again, which is disheartening, honestly speaking. Because in September 2024, the original cartoon returned to Max, formerly known as HBO Max, joining Warner Bros. Discovery's collection of old cartoons again. This move made it seem like Jonny Quest would finally get the attention it deserved, and maybe it would have, but look at that. On March 31st, 2025, it was gone again. It was removed along with some other older animated shows as part of Max's shrinking classic cartoon catalogue. So once again, it was only briefly available legally in that latest streaming window, which hits harder because who doesn't use streaming services these days, especially for accessing older shows? Because if something is not easily accessible these days, it practically stops existing. And that's what is precisely happening to Jonny Quest. It all makes sense now. A show that felt so omnipresent in syndication now barely exists in the legal streaming ecosystem. Maybe now it can only be accessed through fan-made archives, old DVDs lying around somewhere, who knows? But anyway, one of the last relevant questions would be, who is Jonny Quest actually for now? Because the cartoons that kids watch today have no similarity to the style of the olden ones. They are used to contemporary visual styles, anime-inspired narratives, like the case with Young Justice and Avatar: The Last Airbender. And all of these have massively changed and shaped the expectations of the current viewers. Although the older generation would remain fond of Jonny Quest and be a nostalgia by itself cannot guarantee success at the box office or streaming platforms. It actually is the hard truth. This hard truth is evident in the small attempts that were made previously that failed to sustain, like the Jonny Quest merchandise lines that came out over the years, especially the Hallmark ornaments, did not take off. The momentum was still in stagnancy. This failure acts as a reminder to the fact that Jonny Quest does not work at the same levels as Scooby-Doo or Looney Tunes. When it comes to the nostalgia factor, it surely isn't big enough, but it would be wrong to say that it had no impact at all. It definitely had its influences. The whole concept of pulp adventure series owes a lot to this show. It paved the way for a lot of serious action sci-fi cartoons. Take the Venture Bros as an example. The cartoon itself may seem very sidelined, but look at the irony. The impact and path it created for future pulp action related shows is incredible. As of 2026, Jonny Quest still does exist under Warner Bros. Discovery's ownership, which includes the original, the 80s material, as well as the modern reboot, The Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. The live action movie, which is supposed to come out someday, I hope, has been in development hell for decades, and there are no major confirmed release date updates regarding it. And neither is there any active animated revival in sight, nor any public announcement. So in short, Jonny Quest did not disappear per se, but the world for which it was made initially does not exist anymore. The times have changed drastically, and the show needs to catch up with it. The modern media ecosystem really prioritizes content that is self-aware and well-researched. Imagine its most visible modern legacy is a parody on Adult Swim. Anyway, now that is one WTF story to remember for sure. But that is it for this video. For more such content, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and of course, do leave your thoughts about this video down below in the comments section. Let us know which version of Jonny Quest you grew up watching. I'm really interested to know. See you guys next time. Adios.